I was like,
I
I don't
didn't
really
even know
even.
there were
I had
comments.
no idea what the audience was. I'm like, oh well, my approach is pretty much the same
The
regardless.
same everywhere. I don't care who I'm talking to, man. Just I mean, I shifted, but I feel like the conversation was going pretty good. Um, oh shit, we're live.
Yeah, sorry. There's one person watching. It's
Oh
probably.
no,
Oh, they left. They said, "Fuck
that's
this."
bad.
Says
Um,
these stupid tankies.
but that was fun. That was really enjoyable, though.
It
So,
was fun.
what would be a good banner title?
Post stream breakdown. I don't know. One thing I liked that one guy said was comparing Darwin to Marx, and the one guy asked, not a stupid question, but what would Marx be doing today? And
Yeah.
then the other guy compared it to saying like, what would Darwin be doing today? He'd be working with other evolutionary biologists, to
Mhm.
expound on the field of Darwinism. Um, so
Absolutely. I one of the things that I love about the um, Foster's work is that he's so big into Darwin. He ends Marx's ecology has a whole ton of Darwin in it, and he ends with their death, and then he starts this big old book, um, The Return of Nature, with the funerals of um, of Darwin and Marx, and there was a fella that was at both funerals, a scientist, quite prominent scientist, E. Ray Lancaster, and then he goes into his story and stuff. But there's so much overlap between Darwin and 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 Marx in terms of like the circles that they were around. That's pretty good. That's I really liked this book. The thing with Foster is that you're learning so much. Sometimes it's overwhelming. Like I'm not very familiar with like British Marxist history, and I'm learning a ton of it through this. Um,
right.
and like I'm supposed to do a review on it, and it makes it difficult because the stuff I usually review, I'm like, really, it's in my field of research, but I feel comfortable with the like the Marxist ecology thing. But like the whole first part of the book is introducing Lancaster and William Morris, and I'm learning a whole lot. And I know that when I sit down and I have to break down like doing the review, it's um it's gonna be a process of growth. The stuff is gonna go into my head and stick there a little more when I actually put it into words.
Yeah, you always have to understand something on another level if you write about it. That's why I tried. I mean, that was my thought process when I read Capital Volume 1 for the second time the way that I did, and reading it alongside that book about the economics of American slavery, and trying to write about the connection between the two and the connection of the development of capitalism, because I was trying to apply Marx's method in kind of figuring out the history of America a little bit, in figuring out our historical conditions, but also then just like connecting the dots between the economic data of the southern, American slave plantations with the rise of capitalism in Europe that Marx is analyzing, and you have these banks and financiers in Europe who are financing the plantation owners because they want this cheap cotton market, as the textile capitalists and textile manufacturers are developing in the American North a little bit, and especially in Europe. So, kind of just went on a ramble about that, but either way, writing about that, and using that information that I had learned to do something new gave me a much deeper understanding of capital than when I had just read it the first time. I mean, which is to be expected. I mean, it's a kind of a book you got to read more than once, but
It's I tried to emphasize. I did a video on tips for reading, and one of them is like you learn by doing, right? You learn by actively engaging in creating something with the material that you have engaged with. And whether it's writing an article or teaching it, Aristotle, he starts his metaphysics with a statement somewhere along the lines of um, the highest form of knowing is being able to teach. But the opposite is also true, right? The highest level of learning is through teaching, because when you teach, you not only show that you know material, but the process of teaching itself is such a learning experience, um, because you're forced to create something um, with the stuff that you have engaged with, right? And I don't know, I get so much anxiety when I look at the size of this book, because I usually, the stuff that I review, it's like 220 or less pages, because I like to make really thorough reviews and write about, as much of I as I can about the book. And my reviews are usually like 4 to 6 thousand words, but this is a monster. And I was contemplating for a while, like just doing 3 reviews, but I don't know if I'm gonna do that.
You're putting a lot of work on your shoulders there. I do the
Yeah,
same thing. I'm always like, I'll read these 17 books this summer, and then I'll write this thing for Midwestern Marks connecting all of them while I also do grad school. And it's you bite off more than you can chew sometimes. But
and what's crazy is that the more you throw on your plate, the less you want to do what's on the plate, and the more you want to do something else.
mhm.
Like I keep just like coming up with articles I want to start writing on, and then I have to like slap myself and tell me, no, you gotta focus on doing fucking this and do this other thing. Because if not, it just keeps stacking up. But um,
Right.
yeah, I see we
Yeah.
have
What do you think
Professor
of
Q.
the stream? Professor Q's in the house.
They were doing a post stream discussion, and I thought it would be cool if we reacted to the post stream discussion.
We should.
Then
You
they
want
reacted to our post stream reaction of their reaction. That would be
to?
extremely
Have you
dialectical.
seen the new Bo Burnham special? He does
No.
like he like reacts to a video of himself and then he reacts to that and reacts to that. And it's like reactception. That's what we
Yeah,
could create.
that would be hilarious. No, I thought it was really fun. I I wish the interview would have also been the other way around, because I'm getting so much into the sciences, that I'd love to hear more from like hard science. We don't engage when you're in a philosophy department. You're kept really far away from the scientists. I don't know if that's on purpose, like anti-philosopher prejudice, but they keep you really far away from the scientists. And I'd love to talk to more scientists. Um, it's all turtles all the way down. Yes. And I'd also would, since Professor Q specializes in, or part of what he specializes in is in the Frankfurt School. I'd also like to give like, the other side of like the folks who think that the Frankfurt School is uh, pretty important for Marxism, especially after the Gabriel Rockhill interview. I think it might balance things out or a little bit, or just like one of the questions I asked was like, how do you tarry with like the funding behind it. um, I think that I'd be interested in perhaps chatting with him more about that, maybe some other time. But yeah, I felt like the answer the guy had given on Facebook was insufficient. It's just, well, whatever, we got the funding, but it was mainly because we were anti-Stalin. I feel like there's a stronger defense to be made on for the Frankfurt School, and I'd be interested in hearing it. But I've seen this meme posted on
Yeah,
TikTok.
definitely. Because there's stuff. I mean, there's stuff to learn from anyone. Um, so I don't know. I always thought the best defense of the Frankfurt School was almost what Professor Q was saying, though, when he was like, I just read it and take from it what I think is smart and throw away what I don't think is smart or scientific or whatever, however you want to describe it. Right, or helpful. So I don't know. That's a good way to engage with everything. But also, I think it is good to at least know what the economic foundations are, that are producing this theory, which is what Gabriel Rockhill does so well in his work.
And I love reading. I love reading Marcuse. I enjoy it a lot. And Fromm, who isn't, he was within the early part of the Frankfurt School. I really enjoy reading Eric Fromm. Uh,
Yeah. Do you want to watch this Vouch TikTok that Jacob sent us?
yes,
Jacob's
yes.
like a very consistent viewer. He's the man. Hold on, let me share my
Whoosh,
screen here.
the whoosh.
The freaking Voosh. Here we go. I don't have my second monitor right now, sadly. Here we go.
To take note of the fact that I recognize.
Wait, let me mute my mic. Sorry.
Many of these quotes at this point, I would like to take note of the fact that I recognize many of these quotes are taken from larger bodies of work. I read those larger bodies of work. None of the quotes that I am presenting to you right now are taken out of context or selectively released. None of these speeches that I write out to you have ellipses between them to remove sentences that are inconvenient to me. All of these are descriptive of the positions of these theorists at the time they wrote them. At this point, I would like to take.
I've seen that video that's from. Have you seen it, Carlos?
No, I don't know what that's from.
Oh, we should react to that at some point. I mean, first we got to react to Vouch. Vouch made a video about us or about me that we haven't ever watched, which I have on docket to watch. We can do that anytime. But then
Is
he
it the
did a video that
DPRK
like
one?
Caleb Maupin and like Hakeem have all like pretty much every Marxist-Leninist on the internet has torn apart. Where he's, which is that video that we just watched is part of it. Where he goes through Mao and Lenin and basically argues that Mao and Lenin would have voted for Democrats. Stuff stupid as shit.
Oh
So
man,
it's pretty funny.
what an intellect, huh?
Yeah, he's a
What a guy.
genius. Thanks for that, Jacob. Appreciate you for making that meme.
I haven't seen the Deprogram podcast. I've watched Hakeem's stuff as well as the oh fuck, what's the name of the other one that you did?
Second Thought and Ugopnik are the
You
other
got
two.
me. I've
Yeah,
seen you got.
Ugopnik we've worked with.
He's dope. I love his accent.
Yeah, he's the man. He's from the Balkans, which now I know a lot more about thanks to Parenti's book,
Yeah.
To Kill a Nation, the death of Yugoslavia, which he lived through the bombings and stuff. And we talked about like Tito on our podcast and his opinion on the history of Yugoslavia and stuff. So it was awesome. Yeah, I've seen parts of their podcast. It's good. Like, we don't take like a harsh position against like, I don't know. We've been friendly with like Infrared and Caleb Mop and some of these like more outsider guys, but they like hate I don't know if they hate Ugopnik, but I know they hate Hakeem, and I just don't understand that. I feel like, Hakeem, he said stuff I disagree with, but he's absolutely seems like a Marxist-Leninist educator and someone we can ally ourselves with.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. His videos are extremely helpful. He's got
Yeah.
I've seen a few of the very introductory ones, and they're really good. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just my criticism, I guess I have there of Infrared and stuff. Like, if you want to ally with Marxist-Leninists, I feel like Hakeem is someone to ally with. But I mean, maybe Hakeem denounced Infrared as Pat Sock, but we don't need to get into that right now. Do you want to watch this video of Vouch talking about the DPRK and like me and us?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wanted to react to this forever. I just didn't want to do it alone because it's less fun. Shoot, where is that? Jacob, do you have that? Weren't you the one who sent it? I don't think I have it in my stream document anymore. I must have accidentally deleted it. Let me see here. Streaming. Yeah, I guess I don't have it.
I think I've seen it before.
You've seen it?
Yeah, I'm looking for it now to see if I can link it.
All right, Jacob's on it. Appreciate you, comrade. I just know that you sent it originally, not to make you like fetch links for us. Do appreciate y'all in the chat though.
Is it that one?
Let's see.
There's more than one.
Oops. There's more than one, yeah, for sure.
Shit, they called you brain dead here. Are you okay? Is there a health issue you should tell me about?
Yeah, I got a lobotomy. My parents found out I was a communist and they subjected me to get part of my brain taken out. Oh, Jacob sent the one we want to watch. Thank you. Let me find it here in our Twitch chat.
Characters have.
Look at the views go up, right? Or the viewers go up, right? When we start talking about freaking Voosh or start engaging in some online internet beef. You people are vultures. Oh, they went back down. Good. That's what I like to see. Come back when we start talking about theory. Everyone should leave when we talk about Voosh. Oh, they're back up again. Damn it. All right,
Get out of here. What are you doing? Be better than that.
Voosh responds to Eddie's video about how Vouch. So my video, I like quoted Domenico Lacerdo, and I like used that tree graphic that we always talk about, where I said that first I support economic sovereignty. Just national sovereignty. That's the roots of the tree. So I support, the people of the DPRK to have their sovereignty, not have it crushed by the U.S. U.S.'s sanctions, U.S.'s bombs. U.S. is occupying and setting up fascist dictatorships in South Korea. So I support their sovereignty, and then I support their right to economic independence, which is where I criticize the U.S.'s sanction regime that they've held on the DPRK, which is the most stringent sanction regime ever in history, other than the one that the U.S. has held on Cuba for the same period of time. So I criticize the U.S. for that, and I support the DPRK's right to economic independence, and then the leaves of the tree are like political and civil rights, and I said you could make criticisms of the DPRK there, but they also work hard to give their people an actual form of democracy, an actual choice in their politics and in how production is carried out in their country, and that's much more democracy or political rights than we have in the U.S. In a certain sense. So that's basically what I said. And yeah, let's see Vouch respond to Domenico Lacerdo. You got anything to say before we start it up, Carlos?
I'm just looking at the chat, and Mad Marxist said something about Japan's prime minister getting shot.
Oh, right. Recently?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I can comment on it, but if that seems pretty wild.
That is wild.
Yeah, I don't follow Japan's politics. I've read some of the articles from the party over there, but
yeah, I don't either. So, do we talk about Japan or do we keep watching Voosh?
I can't talk much about Japan. I mean, I watch The Last Samurai like once every 2 months.
All right, we'll play Voosh.
That's all I can fucking talk about it.
That is a good movie, though. Shout out to Tom Cruise.
Fantastic.
It's the Eddie guy. Why Vosh is chauvinistic towards the DPRK. Are you sure this guy's reasonable?
I'm going to respond.
What is his intro?
So a while back,
How dare he? How dare he hate on the intro that David worked hard on? That intro's sick. We probably do need to change our intro. It's been that for like 4 years. I agree with Vouch on that one, I guess.
I made a TikTok about Vosh and the DPRK or North Korea, and he actually watched it and responded to it on his stream. So I guess I made it in.
I think I just said it was dumb. I don't think I really
the world of internet politics.
You've seen this weak takedown to your April Fool's and likes.
Thank you, Bosch.
And putting words like
Government, you know.
True.
Actually, that's not true. What I'm putting on screen right now is a visual explainer used by Marxists. We are
is this
sovereign and assume
anything?
independence. The United States well-being, political, cultural, and environmental.
I remember I said in that video that Vosh was just gonna skip through all my points and then call me a stupid tanky. And he's skipping through the part where I was explaining Lacerdo, who's one of the leading Marxist intellectuals in the world, Italian Marxist-Leninist intellectual. But, you know, I'm sure Voosh has nothing to learn from him. His brain is too big for Lacerdo.
Oh my god, I can't even believe it's real. How do you react to a video you don't see?
No, they don't engage with arguments it's bred to. They seriously don't. They just like literally appeal to like, you know, tanky, tanky bad.
Yeah, well, Lasorda is one of the more respected Marxist academics around the world. He's like he's passed away a few years ago now, but he was frequently invited to China, to Latin America, to different places, to the U.S. To speak. He's got hundreds of articles published in scholarly journals. So he's not just some random tanky, you know, publishing in, you know, weird small sectarian parties. He's published, you know, in major journals, and he has dozens and dozens of books translated in dozens of languages. But I guess it's better just to skip what what Lasorda has to say.
Right. I mean, Lacerdo or Voosh's Twitch chat. Like, who would you rather learn from? I'm going with Voosh's Twitch chat every time.
Environmental rights. And this is where you can critique North Korea, right? Or the DPRK.
What?
You can say they have human rights abuses. Their people don't have the civil rights or the political rights that I wish they had.
Okay. That's cool.
However, that does not mean I think the United States should intervene in Korea and overthrow their government because they don't have the same political, civil, and cultural rights as us.
This is actually, when did Vosh ever say, oh, no, I said I actually do think the world would be a better place if we had pushed them past the parallel and if all of Korea was South Korea right now. I actually do believe that. Not like a modern invasion, but if the Korean War had ended with complete control of that.
That's kind of crazy that I got him to admit that. That I got him to admit that he supports the fascist U.S.-backed dictatorship of South Korea. Oh, taking over the you know, democratic, communist, independent state that is the DPRK that had 20% of their population killed by the U.S. in the Korean War, and had their infrastructure and every building bigger than 2 stories tall, leveled by U.S. bombs. And there were literally, you know, U.S. pilots defecting, and there were U.S. pilots joining, you know, North Korea, switching sides because they saw what their government was doing and they couldn't believe it and they could never go back and forgive themselves, you know. And you know, most of the statistics that we have on the deaths of people come from U.S. Air Force generals who are involved in the massive carpet bombing of this country. And Vaush says, you know, not only does he support that, but he wishes it would have gone further. You know, he wishes the South, which was backed by fascist dictator Syngman Rhee, who was trained up in the American universities by the American State Department, undemocratically declared leader. You know, he says he wishes that was who ran the country, and this is someone who calls himself a socialist. So, I mean, shout out to Nicola Serto's tree.
That's the biggest problem, right? If he just held his views, I mean, there's nut jobs out there with nut job views. I don't have a problem. But the problem is when they begin to call themselves socialist, Marxist, etc., etc., especially when they're as big as Vaush is, and he's big for a reason, right? He's big for a reason. Like, a Marxist-Leninist streamer will never get as big as, you know, Vaush is allowed to get by the algorithms and the state and the funding and all that stuff. So that's the danger in it, because people are descending to the existing order and they're looking for an alternative, and then what they find is Vaush.
It's so sad.
That country, that probably would have been better. like North Korea is a hell state, like a miserable hell state. It's like a perpetual fucking march of suffering forward. Not to say South Korea is perfect or that we haven't fucked with South Korea. We definitely have. And they were also fascist for a while, thanks to us. But yeah, still better.
That's the government you just said you support taking over. You fucking moron. It's like, yeah, they were fascist thanks to us, but you know, that would have been better than communism. I, as a Marxist, support fascism over communism. Jesus
I'm trying
Christ.
to look
And
for
it's
this.
also crazy how you know, every time the liberals, because that's really what Vaush is a liberal, they always side with fascists over communists. It's fucking crazy. What were you saying?
I'm trying to look for this account of this lady that she's in the DPRK, and she's like just streaming from there or vlogging from there, and it's insane. Like I think I sent you the video through Instagram. They were just at the beach, like having fun.
Yeah,
It's
they're
just-
like partying. I saw that.
What is she? Is she like fucking hiding the state officials that have a gun to these people's heads, forcing them to have fun?
It's forcing them to drink. That's terrible. It's crazy. Yeah, they have like a water park in Pyongyang. It looks really fun. Yeah,
Let
there's
me-
a water park, but all the women are in like one piece bathing suits. So the liberal feminists are like, "Oh, that's oppression." You know, they're not wearing bikinis. It's like, come on. Let these people have their culture and way of life for the love of God. You psychotic libs.
So on Instagram, it's Zoe Discover SNK. It's it's pretty crazy because I mean it infiltrates a lot of Marxists who support it critically but still think, hey, it's a hell state over there, and you start to get these videos of people just having fun, and you start to ask around, and it's like if you want violin classes after work, they're free. You just show up and take your violin classes. If you want to watch a movie, free. Just walk in. That's it. You know.
Yeah, we talked to Derek Ford, who spent a ton of time in the North and the South, and he's
In
like,
the South.
it's like, yeah, it's like 10 or 11 p.m. at night. They're just like kids running around in the street, like with the soldiers, because it's like there's not crime. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, yeah, they don't have as much material wealth because the U.S. has systematically excluded them from the IMF and the World Bank and the rest of the world economy with brutal sanctions. But you know, it's not like they've created a hellscape for their people. And you know, Loyal Citizen of Pyongyang is a great movie by the Liberation or you know, PSL people, same people Derek Ford is connected to, who we did our podcast with about the DPRK. And yeah, I recommend everyone check that out. Should we keep going with Voosh? I forgot we were reacting to his dumbass.
Better than there. No, Vosh, it's imperialistic. I actually wonder though, for left, at what point do you think a country is so, because if there was a way to like integrate North Korea into the totality of Korea right now with minimal intervention, I would totally support that. The problem is we can't just like invade North Korea because that wouldn't fix anything. It would be a miserable, bloody mess, and we would make everything worse. And South Koreans don't even necessarily want North Korean integration because they would have to deal with tens of millions of incredibly poorly educated and trained people with a bunch of really weird ideas compared to them suddenly becoming a part of their country. Like, why would it would be like America wanting to like annex Mexico, except if Mexico is 1/10 as wealthy as it is right now. So I don't know. It's not an easy.
Did he just say reunification of the peninsula would be the same as the U.S. annexing Mexico? Before the fucking peninsula was divided by some U.S. generals in a National Geographic map, nobody even thought, you know, division of the peninsula was possible. You know, nobody thought it was conceivable that this was going to stand, that the peninsula would be divided. But you know, the U.S. has done everything they could for, you know, first leveling the infrastructure of the North and killing 20% of their population, placing them under the stringent sanctions, and then doing everything they can to boost the oligarchy in the South, you know, the fascistic, dictatorial, authoritarian oligarchy in the South, which, you know, only by being undemocratic and, you know, using intelligence agencies and propaganda was able to keep the peninsula divided. You know, and keep these people apart. And now today, you know, especially with South Korea's deteriorating economic conditions under capitalism, support for reunification on both sides is high, as it's ever been since, back when the peninsula had just been split by, a voting plan devised by the U.S. And carried through the UN. So
There's also like a lot of Eurocentrism and chauvinism in his response, because he's like, they don't want a bunch of people with these weird ideas coming down. It's like, what weird ideas?
right,
What weird ideas? Like what?
Marxism, the ideology you claim to support.
South Korea, because of basically colonialism, right? Western colonialism has been almost like attempted to be stripped of its culture and westernized. So like, what ideas are coming down? Like a mixture of their traditional cultures with Marxism. That's the weird ideas. And it's off the culture of the South is obviously not weird because it's westernized. It's just incredibly. It's not just like ignorant, but it's also like it's always enmeshed with a certain prejudice of what the East is like, and we have the right ideas, we have the right culture here. Don't let the weird ideas from the North come down to the South that's so westernized and pure and that we have done our work in.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't even think about it that way, but that's always the ideology of imperialism and colonialism. We're outsourcing civilization to these people, We're not exploiting them.
Ryan Tracy's right. People focus on the crimes against the DPRK, but they've done a lot of shit in South Korea too, right? It's basically a fucking little colony of the U.S.
It is. It's basically occupied. I mean, I call it occupied Korea. Like the South Korean intelligence agency is one of the most terroristic and horrific government agencies, authoritarian, whatever you want to call it, autocratic agencies that's ever existed. The way they torture people, trick people into defecting, torture them, brainwash them, and then blast them over literally like TV shows, TMZ, propaganda magazines. Freaking academic sources won't accept South Korean defectors anymore, so they just spout it over any sort of non-academic source they can, even including entertainment. There's a TV show in South Korea with defectors that are gained through this government intelligence agency, and that's what the movie Loyal Citizens of Pyongyang touches on. But yeah, the U.S.'s crimes in the South are horrific in creating this dictatorial government. And now you have films like Squid Game and Parasite that are super anti-capitalist, anti-poverty films that are coming out of South Korea, being created by South Korean directors who are growing up in these conditions.
But they always have to be critical of the North.
Yep.
It always has to sneak in somehow. I remember I watched this show that was the sort of thing that I would put on just to fall asleep. It's somebody feed Phil, and it's just this Jewish fellow that just goes around the world eating, and as a character, he's fucking awesome. He's super like charismatic. But there's this one episode that he does in Korea, and oh no, I forget what he does the episode, but he has I think it's Korea. He has a defector who's working at a restaurant, and it just looks, there's just like this weird staged vibe to it. And it's funny how like all the flaws or all the made up flaws of the North are really centered, but like what's never in the conversation is what the U.S. did to Korea. That's never ever talked about.
Right.
Situation to deal with. If there was a way to snap your fingers and like make it happen, though, yeah, I think that'd be the moral thing to do. How would you respond to the argument the DPRK sucks because of U.S. sanctions? Dude, if the DPRK didn't want U.S. sanctions, then why the fuck is it constantly waving nukes around the fucking Southeast Asia? No.
John Bolton, when he was within the U.S. State Department, said, "We are going to follow the Libya model with North Korea." What happened in Libya was Muammar Gaddafi gave up his weapons, he gave up his nuclear program, and the United States killed him. He got a bayonet shoved up his butt, and he died. And now Libya is a war-torn country without a central government that had an open-air slave market for a long time. That still persists when they were previously one of the most prosperous countries in Africa. So the idea that the DPRK is just waving nukes around, oh, they're so crazy because they want to have nukes. So the country who killed 20% of their population 70 years ago, who's sanctioning them and surrounding them with troops and occupying half the peninsula, doesn't destroy them. How absurd, how crazy. Ooh, as John Bolton saying, we're going to follow the Gaddafi model. The Gaddafi model, which means give up your nukes so we can kill you. Like, the level of analysis here is just, shitbird, I guess I would describe it. Vaush is a shitbird.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's I think we posted not too long ago, like, one of the new missiles that they created. And it was a propaganda video. It was pretty dope. It had like the music, it had him in like a leather jacket. People got so mad. Like, why are you showing this? Because it's cool. I don't know. No, but it's, if they don't get it, then there's no possibility of entering the negotiation table. Like, they wouldn't have been able to go and talk to Trump, which is one of the few good things he did in his presidency, if they didn't have that counterforce that allowed them to not just get bullied around by the U.S. And it's unfortunate, but it's not their fault. Right? It's the same as the comments that Fidel makes on guerrilla warfare. It's not the revolutionaries who choose violence. Violence is pushed upon us as the only thing that we can do in order to survive. And I'm not endorsing violence or anything like that. But it's the same thing with North Korea, right? You're condemning the only option that they have to continue having sovereignty over their nation, to continue to protect their sovereignty. Exactly. And that's foolish.
One of the things that, it's been proven over and over again, that nuclear weapons is one of the only deterrents that has been able to stop the empire. And when countries like Gaddafi give it, the U.S. have destabilized them.
The sanctions are obviously going to happen. Also, like, if China actually gave a fuck about North Korea, they could support that country way more than they actually do. They don't, because China doesn't give a fuck, okay? Yeah.
DPRK knows that this is their future if they give up their nuclear weapons program. The U.S. will intervene, do everything they can to overthrow them, and turn the DPRK into a neo-colony. And this isn't some hidden tanky secret. John Bolton was saying this in the open to the media, saying we are going to follow the Libya model.
What do you think would happen if South Korea completely disempowered itself and cut all ties to America? Yeah, this is what happens to countries in general. Yeah. I noticed that we're no longer talking about the well-being or the legitimacy of the North Korean government. We're just talking about, like, the U.S. State Department invasion plans now.
Well, how does that have nothing to do with their sovereignty or their political legitimacy? The U.S. is going to invade them and overthrow their government. What's that got to do with their sovereignty?
Why are we talking
about their sovereignty?
Why are we talking about the guy that's fucking stabbed? Well, I mean, why are we talking about the stabber and not the guy that's stabbed? Like, it's
right.
What he's doing?
It's just crazy. It's slimy. It's pretty crazy the way he weasels around ever, like, engaging with an argument.
How big is his audience?
It's been shrinking lately, honestly, from what I've heard. I don't think it's as big as it once was, because he's such a, I don't know, there's no substance there. I'm just going to watch a little more. It's a little bit fascinating, but I can't do this for too much longer.
DPRK would have to be absolutely insane to give up their nuclear program when the U.S. is openly saying they want to follow the same model as Libya, a country who has been overthrown and destabilized. And no, Vaush, I'm not saying things are as simple as the U.S. is exclusively responsible for the DPRK's political structure. What I'm saying is that you can't ignore the history of the DPRK and the fact that they fought a war of independence against brutal Japanese colonizers who had long extracted resources using borderline slave labor.
All right, wait, hold on. So that was, pardon me if I'm off on this one, that wasn't North Korea, that was Korea. I'm pretty sure. That wasn't North Korea. That was the unified Korean people before the Civil War. So
The Korean people were going to be unified, and the whole peninsula was going to be unified during the war, because nobody would support Syngman Rhee, the U.S.-backed fascist dictator, because nobody wanted that. Everybody supported the government of the DPRK. They swept through the peninsula all the way to the bottom, and that's when the U.S. began their bombing campaign, and that's when they killed 20% of the North's population, because that was the only option they had to push them back. Because, democratically, everybody supported the DPRK, setting up a democratic, socialist, independent government. But instead, the U.S., occupied them, and they had to kill 20% of the population in order to do that. So to be like, this wasn't colonialism, that happened in Korea, not North Korea, because it happened before the U.S. divided their country up in a National Geographic map. Like, oh, wow, genius analysis, Voosh. Yeah, crazy the ignorance. I'm probably done with Voosh. I don't want to watch anymore. There's no substance.
None
Like,
at all.
that's the level of arguments are literally like, I'm saying like these people fought for their independence, and you're ignoring that history. It's like, well, that was Korea, not North Korea, when the U.S. literally, divided their country in half and occupied half of it.
Oh my god. What does he do besides political commentary? Like how is he so big? Does he play like video games and stuff?
Does anyone in the chat know? I know he plays video games while he debates. I mean, it's debates. Here's what it is. He debates conservatives. So he gets these dumbass conservatives who are like, I don't think black people should drive. And then Vaush is like, here's why that's stupid. And then everyone's like, wow, you're a genius, Vaush. You're smarter than that guy who didn't think minorities can drive, like that's honestly, that's what Hassan Piker is too.
I think that I saw the debate that Caleb had done with Vosh like almost 2 years ago, and it was so ridiculous. It was just, you support China, fascist. You support the USSR, fascist. DPRK, fascist. And Caleb was like, all these people that you like, Fred Hampton, all the major socialist figures and black revolutionaries, they all supported all of these states. Are they fascist? No. You, because you support them, fascist. But
it's crazy. Like, the Soviet Union's fascist. Who were they fighting against in World War II, Vaush? Who killed 80% of the Nazis, the fascists, in World War II? It was the Soviets, the communists, the socialists. Like, this is my bot. But it's the same, it's the same Hannah Arendt myth of totalitarianism, just equating these two, but doing it in an egotistical and arrogant way, like, oh, if you don't say that USSR is fascist, you're an idiot, you're ahistorical. You never read Hannah Arendt's CIA-funded book. And that's what, why a lot of people accuse Voosh of being attached to the State Department, and why that gray zone piece was so interesting, finding that Philosophy Tube was connected to Valent. And, some people in our audience, were fans of them, which is fine, being fans of some of those BreadTube figures. And there's stuff you can learn from them for sure, especially, or I don't know, some of them. Like that, the fact that they were connected to an arm of the NED is definitely something that should concern you. Like, the way I was trying to describe it to our audience, like, if Midwestern Marx was connected to Bellingcat, if you found out we were taking funding from Bellingcat, which is an arm of the National Endowment for Democracy, you should all be very concerned. You should all be very concerned and critical, and you should be like, Eddie and Carlos, why are you being funded by the State Department? And you should be looking to see if our content takes a turn.
We'd get fired day one.
We would. Our audience would be onto us so fast.
But the yeah, man, it's I forgot what I was gonna say. It's so late. I'm tired, but
yeah, I think I don't know, one way I think that State Department or powers that be control the social media more than we think, like a tactic I'm pretty sure they use. Like, I'm sure they do bot accounts, and rich people control the algorithms, the Silicon Valley oligarchs, but I think they astroturf like certain kinds of tweets, and there's certain, like Carlos was saying in that vouch response, there's a reason that these people have so many followers, and that they have so many views. And there was recently a video that I wrote a response to. I didn't end up recording it. I should have, but it was about the conspiracy theorist left from this creator called Sophie from Mars. Like, immediately when they posted it, it just blew up, like hundreds of thousands of views. And basically the whole idea was this, idea that's long been pushed by the CIA, that tankies or supporters of existing socialism or anti-imperialists are conspiracy theorists. They're the same as QAnon people. And yeah, I think this stuff is like being astroturfed. So, more so than they're having bots go tweet things or say things. I'm sure that's happening, but they're having like bots like certain things. So as Gabriel Rockhill was saying with the Frankfurt School and some of the more imperialist academics, a lot of times they're not controlling the academics like puppets or marionettes, but they build the marionette house, which draws the puppets. So they create a situation where you can be a celebrity academic by being an imperialist. And on YouTube and Twitter and all these social media sites, by astroturfing tweets and giving people a dopamine rush when they get a tweet from saying a certain thing, they can create a marionette house for people to come and make imperialist content. And yeah,
Absolutely.
vouchers.
What I was gonna say before, you were talking about the conflating of fascism with communism, and that's something that Vosh does. One of the most interesting and dumb arguments I've heard against that was given to me by a university history teacher when I was an undergrad. It's so stupid. But he told the class, he was like, you want to know why socialism and communism are different? Because they fought against each other in World War II. We usually think they're the same, but it was the communists and the socialists fighting. So insinuating that like the Nazis were socialists and the communists were communists. Talk about an actual brain dent, to use that unfortunate term.
Oh my God, I was giving them too much credit. I'm like, are they talking about the Social Democrats who allied with the fascists to kill Rosa Luxemburg? No. Nazis are socialists. Soviet Union's.
It's so bad. Do you ever think about these interactions you had in undergrad with people who like now you would just like teachers who now you would just like stop the class? What the fuck was that you just said?
Yes, dude. Like with Jennifer. Oh, I shouldn't say her name. But she's. I mean, I can't say her name because she's literally a political figure. She runs for office she's the head of the local GOP, and she's and also the head of the economics professor at our college. And like, her arguments against socialism were idiotic. I just didn't have the confidence in my knowledge, but it was literally, Venezuela was doing amazing. They were the richest country on earth. Then they did socialism. Now they're poor. And that's all. And then I would ask her, I'd be like, what about the sanctions? As an economist, what is your analysis of those? She's like, I'm sure they have some effect, but not as big of an effect as socialism. And I'm like, why? It's like what is the point of having a field of study, in economics, if you can't explain anything, if it's just a dogma? And yeah, I would love to go back and tell her that now. I'm sure I held my own back then just because her arguments were so dumb. But I would love to go back and just be like, here's why everything you've said in this class is fucking nonsense. You're brainwashing these kids.
Oh yes, and you mentioned earlier the bots, and one of the people whose channel we really like is the Carefree Wondering, Professor Hans-Georg Moeller. I teach his book at the end of my Intro to Philosophy class. Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I teach his book in the at the end of my intro to philosophy class, and I just published an article on his framework of pro-felicity and imperialism. But one of the things that he says is that we have gotten to an age where people construct their identity according to their profiles, which means that the general peer, he has a concept for the general peer, which really just means like the sort of the audience that is receiving the stuff you're putting out plays a really big role in creating these social validation feedback loops that then roll back to you and inform how it is that you should curate your profile. And when you have bots that are manipulating what the general peer says, and when you understand that the general peer, that the audience has a big influence in how it is that people think and craft their identity, through social media, imperialism has the capacity to just almost manipulate what people think, because they fund specific views, they throw the bots at it in a way that looks very professional, and then it leads to people organically or seemingly spontaneously accepting the things that were actually astroturfed and promoted. And so what starts as fake and artificial turns to real when it begins to trend. And that's something we saw with Cuba, right? You had a bunch of fake pictures shared, you had a bunch of fake tweets, a bunch of accounts made yesterday fucking tweeting shit. And it got trending, right? Yes, they banned the bots, but once it trended, real people saw it. And then real people changed their idea of a specific event because of those bots. They saw who the crowd was favoring. And that's manipulation. That's media manipulation in order to create legitimacy for imperialism. And I don't doubt that these socialists who somehow always side against the socialists outside of the United States, or the socialists that support the socialists outside the United States, I don't doubt that these people have their platforms infiltrated by these bots. Because when people dissent at the existing order, which is bound to happen because it keeps half of the working class one lost paycheck away from going homeless, when these conditions come about, they're going to look for socialism, and who they'll find is Vaush. And the empire is okay with you finding Vaush.
Yeah, they are.
They're not okay with you finding Eddie or Midwestern Marx, right? Or, these other great sources that are Marxist-Leninists. They're okay with you finding Vaush.
It's bedtime. Stay sexy, gentlemen, comrades. Thank you, Alexander the Average. Appreciate you.
What a beast.
Love that supporter. 269. That's awesome. Brandon, did you see Caleb's response? I haven't watched it, but seeing that Caleb was talking about Voosh again was what gave me the impetus to play Voosh on our stream today. So I did see that he uploaded that, but I haven't gotten a chance to check it out. Yeah, I agree with what you said. And I've seen comrades, this is subjective, but I've seen people who I think, take a good Marxist-Leninist line and have good, basic Marxist principles in their analysis and what they support and whatever else. And then they just take a hard turn towards liberalism because they just get way more popular. All these tweets are getting a lot of likes, but it's like, what does that really mean? Twitter is such an echo chamber that is not representative of the masses, especially when we know that the State Department's astroturfing the tweets that they like.
Absolutely. Someone mentioned the Top Gun. Have you been able to see it?
I haven't. It's pretty tightly connected to the DOD.
Yeah, I think Alan McLeod from Minpress News. I might be mispronouncing
McLeod,
his name.
Yeah.
McLeod. I think it was him, either someone else from Minpress News. They published an article about the connection from the military-industrial complex and the State Department to the movie. I haven't seen much about it. I've just seen people leave the mustache only because of the film. I've seen TikToks of that, but
yeah, I've seen a bunch of people. I've had a bunch of people talk about it, and I always tell them, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure it's a good movie, but there's another one coming out with Chris Pratt, who's just, the more I learn about that guy, the more disappointed I get, because I thought he was funny in Parks and Rec, but he's a douchebag. he's in this Amazon Prime movie where he worked directly with Navy, like the Pentagon, and with Navy SEALs. And it's just like a total propaganda movie. And then he was at the UFC fights this weekend, and he was criticizing Israel Adesanya, the middleweight champion, because he did like a cool like WWE Undertaker entrance. And then he won by decision, unanimous decision. But Chris Pratt was like, that wasn't a badass performance. You didn't live up to your entrance, so I'm not a fan. It's like talking shit. It's like this dude's been training with the Pentagon so long, and they've tricked him into thinking he's an actual badass. He's an actual Navy SEAL who can criticize the middleweight champ. It's the DOD brainwashing.
It's I love what you're doing with the Midwestern wrestling.
Oh, you like that? I
Yeah,
forgot. We haven't even talked about that yet.
I saw the video that is it Matt
Mm-hmm.
that Matt posted today about that, and it reminded me of the rants that my dad would go on with me when I was younger about how they treat Cuban boxing, because Cuban boxers are extremely technical, and if you're just into watching fights where people are just trying to destroy each other's faces and not box, which means not get hit, you're not going to enjoy Cuban boxing because it's very technical and they win, but they're not allowed to like fight, championship fights, and they're not giving big audiences because they're not people that attract a lot of people because of how technical they are.
Yeah,
and
it's the same with the UFC now.
Yeah, that's commodification infiltrating, sports.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy. And even, Floyd Mayweather makes a lot of money. And he used to be more of a brawler back in the day, but he still doesn't get that much credit. People talk about these heavyweight boxers like Mike Tyson, who had like 6 losses, as the best of all time because he would knock people out. And like, yeah, I love Mike Tyson. He's an incredible boxer, but Floyd has beaten, Canelo Alvarez and Manny Pacquiao and so many of the best of all time. He's 50-0. Like, what the hell? How do you argue against that? And it's because his defensive boxing is amazing. But yeah, people aren't as into the technical stuff, and drives me crazy in the UFC. Islam Makhachev right now is on like a 9-fight win streak. He's this incredible wrestler. He crushes everyone, but can't get a title fight over the likes of McGregor and the brash trash talkers because he doesn't speak English that well. He's a Russian guy, so.
Oh, that's the other side of it, right? If you don't trash talk,
Right.
I don't know how recent a phenomenon that is, but if you don't trash talk, you're done.
Yeah, that's a bit of a new thing in MMA, but
I want to thanks. I wanted to show this comment from the peer review. We were just on their channel. We had an extremely fun time talking to them. Go check it out. It's on their YouTube. Yeah, the bots are back. The peer review. So go check it out. That was fun.
you got anything else you want to talk about, Carlos? I'm about ready to go to sleep here.
I am too. How do we get rid of these fucking bots?
The Tinder bots? I don't know, man. They're trying to infiltrate us.
They popped up the other day when we were doing the Rock Hill interview, and I was trying to delete it. By mistake, I showed it.
Damn.
And I almost had a heart attack from how hard I was trying to hold my laugh in. It was insane.
On the Gabriel Rockhill, do you want to make it HCXYZ love to G?
It's so bad. And it was the only one, because I was scared for it to happen again. I just didn't look at the chat. And it was the only one that I was able to show. So like throughout the whole interview, the only comment that pops up is the bot thing. It's horrible.
That's too funny. Alrighty. Well, good chatting with you. Good job with the stream today.
Likewise, brother. Yeah, let's get some interviews going for this upcoming week. I think the interview with Rocket was excellent. There's a few other good people that I think we should interview. So look forward to that. And as always, check out the Dr. Riggins reading the classical text of Marxism text, which is absolutely fundamental if you want to learn Marxism and how it was taught classically by the Marxist-Leninist camp. So, all right, folks, thank you for joining us, and I hope you all have a good night.
We'll see you next time.